So the next piece of this is to build yourself a farm, and we're going to do that in two separate videos. One is going to be the food farm, so where we're going to farm wheat automatically, and we'll do that one first. And then we're going to have a sheep farm or a cow farm, or maybe I'll make both, and that will show you how to acquire some other things for the farm. So. First thing you want to do in the game is build yourself a little wheat farm because you definitely want to have wheat once you get the sheep and or cow farm going. So we're going to build a small one here. Let's see. So we're going to get rid of this stuff. We'll keep that and we'll keep the grass. Why not? We're going to need a planter, a harvester, a fertilizer. Oops. Actually, we'll use a dirt block because we're going to need that. So those are the three machines basically. You don't have to have a fertilizer right away, but it does make your life a lot easier for sure. And you're obviously not going to have any fertilizer right away. You can use bone meal to start off, just to make some quick stuff. So the way this works, I'm going to build it kind of out in the open so you can see how everything is built. The planter needs to be placed in the center, and you need to have dirt all around it on the top, one layer above it. And if you need to put something on top of it, you hold shift right click if you didn't know that. So it starts off by being a 3x3, but you'll see here there's an upgrade slot, and you can actually make this a lot bigger. I did at one point in the game, and I did that at first when I didn't have fertilizer. Once you have fertilizer and a good system going, you really don't need to be any bigger than 3x3, maybe a 5x5. But it uses a bunch of power too, so the 3x3 is kind of a good compromise. Or you can have a 3x3 and then maybe also have a natural farm where it's really large. You can go up to, I think it's like 20x20, which is really big. And you don't have to use fertilizer that way. You can just let it grow on its own and use the harvester and planter machines upgraded and get all the stuff from those without having to use fertilizer. The fertilizer comes from a composter, which you will get from sewers, which are used underneath the cow and sheep farm, which we'll show you in another video. So again, the planter, 3x3 dirt on top of it. Some people leave the middle open so they can get to the machine. I usually just make a path underneath it so that I can get to it underneath so I don't waste that center spot. We're going to need a harvester, which is going to go on one end. It's a 3x3 in front of it. And same with the fertilizer. And we're going to put power to them. And we'll just use a cube again. And you can see they all got power now. There's a couple of options in this. You can shear the leaves, which gives you the leaves themselves. That does not give you saplings. That can be problematic because you get tons and tons and tons of leaves. I don't know what you'd use them for, other than maybe lighting them on fire or something. I don't know. Small shrooms. I have not had a lot of success growing small shrooms. You can make it harvest them, but you can't. The planter doesn't seem to plant them. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I have the wrong lighting or something like that, but I couldn't figure it out. And jungle wood, I have not played around with that, so I can't speak to that. Now the planter just takes seeds. Interesting thing to note with this, you don't actually need water. I know some of the videos I've seen, people put water on the side, but it actually works without it. As long as the lighting is sufficient, it'll do its thing. So we'll go ahead and throw a couple seeds in here, and you can see, boom, it planted them. And we'll go throw a couple more in there just so it's all filled up. Okay, and so now they're just kind of not doing anything. Now if you have bone meal, which is pretty easy to get early in the game, you can use that. And you can see the harvester automatically grabs it and pops it out the back, kind of like the grinder does. So obviously you want to have a chest there. And you can do the nether chest trick if you want to put this somewhere away from your base, that kind of thing. And let's see, let's throw those in there. So it's not super fast or anything, but it just kind of chugs right along. And you get your wheat and your seeds back. So now I've automated mine with the ME system. I think that's the only way to do it well, especially with wheat, because you get two different things. You know, you obviously can't feed them both back into here. You probably could if you really wanted to, but I don't know. I just did it with the ME system a little bit later in the game. If you have a big enough chest here, or chests, you can actually put multiples next to it here. Then it's usually not a problem. So that's the basics of making a farm there. The fertilizer, I will show you in another video how to get it. But for the purposes of this video, I'll show you how it works. This is where it gets really interesting. Sorry, wrong machine. They look so similar, it's hard to tell them apart. So we're going to throw this in here, and you will see it starts cranking right along, and it goes pretty quickly. Each one fertilizer moves the wheat anywhere from 1 to 4, you know, stages of growth. So there's like 3 or 4 stages of growth in the wheat. So sometimes it goes all the way up. Sometimes you can see it kind of sits in the middle. And what it does is just kind of buzzes along, so you can, in stages. So see how that works. And boom, we get a whole bunch of wheat and seeds. So you can see how fast that is. It really is not. It is not slow. You can also do trees with this. So if you do saplings, and what I'll show you is this little thing right here. Took me a little bit to figure out how this works, and it only seems to work with the 3x3. If you go any bigger than that, if you upgrade it, it doesn't work well. It does interesting things. So we'll put some seeds back in here. And what I have done in my game anyway is put the seeds around the outside and sapling in the middle. And that way I don't get too much wood, but at least I have an unlimited supply of wood pretty much. And you can see it shears the whole tree, the wood, and it just keeps cranking right along. And the fertilizer works the same way with that. So one fertilizer will actually bring the whole tree all the way up. So it's actually pretty cheap to do too. And you can see how much wood I'm getting quickly. And that's pretty much that. Doesn't use a ton of power, but once it gets cranking along and your whole system's running, you'll definitely need a pretty good power supply. For this, there's a couple options. You know, obviously you can run off your existing power supply, or you can make a power supply that's a little better suited for this, because the power is actually coming from what's coming out of it, and that is the biofuel generator and the bioreactor. So the biofuel generator is what actually makes the power, so you want to connect that to your power supply. We'll go ahead and get rid of this cube. We don't need that anymore. As you can see, it doesn't look like it's actually plugged in. That happens with a bunch of these different machines, but they are actually plugged in. I don't know what's going on with that. The bioreactor does not need power, so it can be placed pretty much anywhere. You can put it right next to the biofuel generator, so that you don't need pipes or anything like that. Alright, and then the bioreactor works, like I said, off seeds. And can also work off of a bunch of other things. So if we throw seed in here, you see it pops down here. Now anything that pops down here, that means it's working. That means that the machine accepted whatever that was. If it doesn't go down there, like let's say I put some wood in there, notice how it stays up there. So obviously that's not working. There are a handful of things that work in here. Pretty much any kind of seed. Some saplings work. Wheat does not work. So there's a bunch of different things you can put in there. What I've been using generally is seed, carrots, and potatoes, and saplings, because it's an easy mix to make in the in this little farm. So we're going to take a couple of each of these here. And what you do is just like this, and you can put them anywhere in there. Obviously, you know, I still have the oak sapling in the middle there, but it really doesn't matter where any of this stuff is placed. But as you can see, it'll put it in that specific spot. So throw some fertilizer in there. now we've got some carrots and some potatoes growing. And I only had a couple in there, so I'll have to keep feeding it for a minute. And we'll throw some more fertilizer in there. That's moving along pretty good. Now, the reason for having a couple of different kinds of seeds and whatnot in there is to make this thing more efficient. So when you put different kinds of items in there, apple is another one that does not work. When you put different kinds of items in there, it makes them more efficient. Obviously it's full again, so let's see, I'll just throw some in there. So I'll throw some carrot, some potatoes, some seeds, and some saplings. So now once it starts to back up, you'll see it stays there. And you can see the efficiency has changed every time I put different things in there. The higher the efficiency, the more fuel you get out of each item. And when you have 4 in there like this thing will basically just run all day long, and you'll end up with a whole bunch of wheat left over and pretty much a little bit of everything left over. So you'll certainly be set on food, wood, wheat, just like this. Now, obviously you need fertilizer, so that'll be what the next video is about. And I hope you enjoyed.